A young woman in a wheelchair is attacked on the street by three cruel young men who mock her mercilessly. She cries, looks to the sky, and desperately asks God, "If you exist, why do you let this happen to me?" And in the very next second, a stranger appears out of nowhere and changes everything. But that's just the beginning, because what happens next will make you believe in miracles. A story about pain, abandonment, lost faith, and a love that came at the right time to prove that God never turns his back. You will be surprised by the ending of this story. So subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment on where you are watching from, and let's get to the story. It was an ordinary day in Omaha, Nebraska. The sun beat down on the downtown sidewalks, that kind of hot summer afternoon where everyone seems to be in a hurry to get somewhere. Olivia was there, pushing her wheelchair slowly, trying to blend into the crowd. She was 22 years old, with long brown hair that fell over her shoulders, green eyes that had once been full of sparkle, but now seemed dull, tired, as if they carried the weight of a lifetime of pain. Since she was 8 years old, Olivia had been confined to that chair. A terrible childhood accident, a nasty fall from a swing in her backyard, had damaged her spine in a way that doctors said would be irreversible. She remembered the day as if it were yesterday. She remembered the pain, the screams, the despair in her mother's eyes. And she also remembered how, little by little, the cheerful, vibrant girl she once was disappeared. In her place remained a silent, sad young woman, always watching the world unfold without her, as if life were a movie she could only watch from the audience, never able to step onto the stage. Her parents, John and Margaret, were devout Christians. They never stopped believing in the miracle. They prayed for her every day, laid hands on her before bed, fasted, wept, and pleaded. But Olivia no longer believed in anything. She thought God had turned his back on her. If he truly loves me, why did he let this happen to me? She silently asked herself whenever she saw her mother crying while praying. It was a question that echoed within her like an unanswered cry, and it wasn't just the chair. It was everything. Olivia was very beautiful. Anyone who saw her would notice. But she had never had a boyfriend. She had never received flowers. I had never felt someone's hand holding hers with romantic affection. At school, the boys mocked her. They laughed. They called her defective, broken, the girl with the chair. Words that remained etched on her soul like invisible scars. But that hurt more than any physical wound. That day, Olivia had gone out to buy a few things downtown. Nothing special, just some basic items. She was used to the stares, the whispers, people crossing her path when she passed by, as if disability were contagious. But that day was different. It was worse. She was walking past a clothing store when she heard laughter behind her. Loud, mocking laughter. She turned her head and saw three young men, probably around 18 or 19 years old. One of them imitated the way she pushed the chair, swaying his body from side to side in an exaggerated way. The other two burst into laughter. "Look, everyone, it's the robot girl," one of them shouted. Olivia felt her face flush. Her heart raced. She tried to speed up the chair, but one of the boys ran ahead and blocked her path. "Where are you going so fast, huh?" He crouched down to her level, a cruel smile on his face. "Do you think you're normal? Do you think anyone will ever want you?" Tears began to fall. Olivia couldn't hold them back. She tried to look away, but another boy pushed the chair aside, making it spin. They laughed louder and louder. People passed by, looked, and kept going. Nobody did anything. Nobody cared. Olivia looked up at the sky. Tears blurred her vision, but she looked anyway. And silently, with a broken heart, she asked, "God, if you really exist, why do you let this happen to me? Why?" And it was in that exact second that everything changed. A firm voice cut through the air. "Aren't you ashamed?" The three boys stopped immediately. They turned around, and there he was, a young man, probably around 26, tall, broad-shouldered, with slightly messy dark hair and brown eyes that seemed to burn with indignation. He wore a simple t-shirt, faded jeans, and old sneakers. Nothing special. But there was something about him, a presence, a silent authority that made the boys back away. "What, man? We were just kidding," one of them said, already embarrassed. "Are you kidding?" The man stepped forward. "And you think humiliating someone is a joke? You think this is funny?" His voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. "Go away. Now." The three exchanged glances. One of them tried to laugh, but the laugh came out weak, lacking the courage to continue. They turned their backs and walked away quickly, murmuring amongst themselves. The man stood still for a second, breathing deeply, as if trying to calm himself. Then he turned to Olivia, and when their eyes met, something strange happened. She felt warmth, not in her face, in her chest, as if something inside her had awakened from a deep sleep. "Are you okay?" he asked, crouching down in front of her. Olivia quickly wiped away her tears, trying to compose herself. I'm fine. Thank you. I'm already used to it." He frowned. "Used to it?" He paused, looking directly into her eyes. "That no one should get used to being hurt?" Olivia didn't know what to say. She remained silent, looking down. "My name is Nathan," he said, extending his hand. "Olivia," she replied, squeezing his hand. Nathan's hand was firm, but gentle, warm. He smiled. And it wasn't a pitying smile. It was a genuine smile. "Look, I know you don't know me, but would you like to get some ice cream with me? There's an ice cream shop across the street. My mother always said that ice cream cures any bad day." Olivia hesitated. Part of her wanted to say no, to go back home, lock herself in her room and cry herself to sleep. But another part wanted to say yes. She wanted to believe that there were still good people in the world. "Okay," she said, almost in a whisper. Nathan smiled again. "Great. Come on, I'll push the chair for you." "No need, I can manage. I know you can do it," he interrupted gently. "But let me help anyway. Just this once." They crossed the street together. The ice cream shop was small and charming, with tables outside. Nathan ordered 2 chocolate ice creams with caramel topping and sat down next to her. They remained silent for a few seconds, simply savoring their desserts. "Why did you do that?" Olivia asked suddenly. "Why did you help me?" Nathan looked at her. "Because it was the right thing to do, and because, I don't know, I was walking. I heard those guys laughing. I looked and saw you crying, and something inside me just couldn't stay still." He shrugged. "Besides, I can't stand injustice. I never have." Olivia felt her eyes welling up with tears again. But this time it wasn't from pain. It was from something she hadn't felt in a long time. Gratitude. "You're beautiful, Nathan said suddenly. Olivia blinked, surprised. "What?" "You are beautiful. Truly. I don't know if anyone has ever told you that, but it's true." She didn't know how to react. She blushed, looked at the ice cream, and stirred her spoon. "You don't have to say that just because—" "I'm not saying this out of pity," he interrupted her. "I'm saying it because it's true. You have beautiful eyes, and a smile that I bet lights up any room when it truly appears." Olivia felt something break inside her. A barrier. A wall she had built around her heart to protect herself. And for the first time in years, she smiled. A small, shy smile. But real. Nathan smiled back. "There. I knew it." They talked for almost 2 hours. Olivia told him about the accident, about the pain, about the anger she felt towards God. Nathan listened attentively, without interrupting, without judging. "I understand your anger," he said when she finished. "Truly. But can I tell you something I've learned?" Olivia nodded. "God doesn't cause pain. He transforms pain. Sometimes he allows storms, because it's in the storm that we learn to truly trust him. And sometimes he's preparing something so big, so incredible, that we can't even imagine it." Olivia remained silent. Nathan's words struck her deeply, in a place she thought was dead. "There's a youth event at my church this Saturday," Nathan said, stirring the remaining ice cream. "Nothing boring. I promise. Music, cool people, good food. Would you like to go? Olivia hesitated. It had been years since she'd set foot in a church. In fact, she'd kind of given up on God. Or she thought God had given up on her. I don't know. I'm not really into church. I figured, Nathan said with a gentle smile. But trust me, it's not about religion. It's about connection. About people who truly care. Just give it a chance. If you don't like it, we'll leave. I promise. Olivia looked into his eyes. There was something there. Something that made her want to trust him. Okay, I'll go. Nathan's smile widened. Really? That's great. I'll pick you up on Saturday, then. What time works for you? She gave a small smile. 6 o'clock is fine. When Olivia arrived home that night, her mother noticed something different. Honey, has something happened? You seem different. No, Mom. I just met someone today. Olivia couldn't hide her smile. Margaret held her daughter's hand. Anyone good? Someone very good. On Saturday, Nathan arrived promptly at 6. He was wearing a blue dress shirt, clean jeans, and had his hair combed. He smelled of a light, pleasant cologne. He greeted Olivia's parents respectfully, shook her father's hand, and hugged her mother. John and Margaret exchanged glances, the kind of look parents exchange when they sense something special is beginning. The church was about a 20-minute drive away. It was a modern building, not very big, with colorful lights at the entrance and music coming from inside. Olivia felt her stomach clench. She was nervous, but Nathan held her hand and said, "Hey, relax. You're going to love it." When they entered, Olivia was greeted with genuine smiles. Several people came to greet her, without that look of pity she hated. They treated her like normal, like anyone else. And that was all she had ever wanted. The music began. It was a lively, joyful, vibrant praise song. Olivia paused at first, simply observing. But gradually, something inside her began to stir. It was as if the music was touching a part of her that had been dormant for years. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she felt something she no longer knew what it was. Hope. When the music ended, the pastor came up on stage. He was a young man, in his early 30s, with a warm smile. Good evening, everyone. Today I want to talk about something simple but powerful. God never gives up on you, no matter how far you've strayed, no matter how much you doubt. He's always there, waiting to show you that he has a plan, and that this plan is good. Olivia felt the tears welling up. They weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of something breaking, of something being healed. Nathan noticed and discreetly placed his hand on hers. She looked at him, and he smiled, a smile that said, "I'm here. You're not alone." After the event, they went to eat hamburgers at a diner near the church. Olivia was different, lighter, more alive. "So, what did you think?" Nathan asked, biting into a French fry. I liked it, really. It had been a long time since I felt like this. Like this, hopeful, as if maybe things could get better. Nathan smiled. "They'll get better, Olivia. I feel it." From that day on, they began to see each other more often. Nathan took her to church every Saturday. They went to the movies, walked, or rather, Nathan walked while Olivia sat beside him in a chair, in the park, talked for hours about everything and nothing. And little by little, something grew between them. Something deep, something real. Olivia began to smile more, to laugh, to believe again. And her parents couldn't stop thanking God for Nathan. "He's a gift from heaven," Margaret would say, moved. 6 months later, Nathan asked Olivia to be his girlfriend. It was a Friday night, in the same park where they always went. He had prepared a simple picnic, sandwiches, juice, strawberries. And as the sun began to set, he took her hand and said, "Olivia, since the day I met you, my life has changed. You made me want to be a better person. You made me believe more in God. You made me understand what true love is, and I want to be by your side. Always. Will you be my girlfriend? Olivia cried. She cried so much she couldn't speak. She just nodded, laughing and crying at the same time. Nathan hugged her, and in that hug, Olivia felt something she had never felt before: completeness. Their courtship was beautiful, full of faith, affection, and respect. Nathan never treated her as if she were fragile or broken. He treated her as the strong and incredible woman she was. And over time, Olivia began to believe that too. 2 years later, Nathan proposed to her. It was on a special night at church, in front of the entire congregation. He knelt before her, held her hand, and said, with tears in his eyes, "Olivia, you are the love of my life. You are the miracle I didn't know I was waiting for. Will you marry me?" And Olivia, who thought she would never get married, who thought she would never be loved, said yes. She said yes with all her heart. The wedding was simple, but moving. Olivia looked beautiful, in a white dress, with flowers in her hair. And when the pastor said, "You may kiss the bride," Nathan kissed her with such tenderness that everyone in the church cried. They moved into a small, cozy house near the church. Olivia thought that was the greatest happiness she could have. She thought God had already done so much for her. Little did she know that God still had something grand in store for her. One morning, about 6 months after the wedding, Olivia woke up with a strange feeling. She felt something in her feet. It was like a slight tingling. She looked down and frowned. It must be my imagination, she thought. But the next day, he felt it again, and again, and again. The 4th time, she called Nathan. "Nathan, come here, quick." He came running. "What happened? Is everything all right?" I can feel my feet." Nathan froze. "What?" "My feet. I can feel them. It's not strong, but I can feel them." They looked at each other. And then, without saying a word, Nathan knelt on the floor, took her hands, and began to pray. He prayed with such faith, with such intensity, that Olivia felt the power of his words. In the following days, the sensation grew stronger. Olivia began to feel not only her feet but her legs as well. And then, something unbelievable began to happen. The movements returned. Slowly, very slowly, but they returned. She managed to move her toes, then bend her knees, then contract her thighs. It was as if her body was waking from a deep sleep. Nathan was by her side every step of the way, encouraging, praying, believing. And then, one Sunday morning, 3 months after it all began, Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, took a deep breath, and stood up, alone, without support. She stood still for a second, feeling the weight of her own body, feeling the firm ground beneath her feet. And then slowly, she took a step, then another, and another. Nathan was in the kitchen making coffee. When he heard footsteps, he turned around, and when he saw Olivia walking towards him, he fell to his knees and began to cry. He cried like a child. Olivia ran, yes, she ran, and threw herself into his arms. They stayed there, on the kitchen floor, embracing, crying, laughing, praising God. "I'm walking," Olivia repeated between sobs. "Nathan, I'm walking again. I know, my love, I know." Nathan held her face in his hands, looking into her eyes as if he were witnessing his own miracle unfold. "God is faithful, Olivia. God is so faithful." They called Olivia's parents right away. Margaret answered on the second ring. "Hello?" "Mom." Olivia could barely speak. She was so emotional. "Mom, I'm walking." On the other end of the line, silence. Then, a shout of joy so loud that John came running from the room. What was that? What happened? Margaret was crying, laughing, unable to speak properly. She could only repeat, "She's walking, John. Our daughter is walking." 15 minutes later, they were at Nathan and Olivia's door. When Margaret saw her daughter standing on the doorstep, smiling, she broke down. She fell into her daughter's arms and cried like she had never cried before. John hugged them both, and Nathan stood there, watching the reunited family, crying along with them. "I never stopped praying," Margaret said, holding Olivia's face. "Not a single day, daughter. Not a single day did I stop asking for this miracle." "I know, Mom." And God heard. He heard. The news spread quickly. The whole church found out. The following Sunday, when Olivia walked into the church hand in hand with Nathan, the congregation erupted in applause. People cried, praised, and shouted with joy. The pastor called Olivia and Nathan to the front and asked them to share their testimony. Nathan held the microphone, but he was so emotional he could barely speak. Olivia took the microphone from his hand with a gentle smile and began, "I spent 14 years of my life thinking that God had abandoned me, thinking that I was worthless, thinking that I would never be loved, never be happy. I looked at the sky and felt anger. I felt pain. And many times I wished I wasn't here anymore." The church fell silent. Everyone listened attentively. But God never gave up on me, even when I gave up on Him. And you know when I realized that? It was one day when I was being humiliated in the street. 3 guys were mocking me, pushing me, laughing. I cried and asked God, "Why do you let this happen to me?" And the next second, this man here appeared. She looked at Nathan, who was standing beside her with tears streaming down his face. Nathan defended me. He protected me. He treated me with respect. And more than that, he showed me who God really is. He showed me that God doesn't cause pain. He transforms pain. And that sometimes God allows us to go through storms because He is preparing something greater than we can imagine. Olivia paused, wiping away tears. "I can walk again. Yes, that's the miracle everyone's seeing. But the real miracle happened before that. It happened when God put Nathan in my life, when He gave me a reason to believe again, when He showed me that I am loved, that I have value, that I have a purpose." She smiled, looking at the congregation. "The miracle didn't begin when I could walk again. The miracle began when I regained my faith." The church erupted in applause again. People stood, praised, wept, and Olivia, standing on the stage, next to the man she loved, felt for the first time in her life that she was exactly where she should be. The following months were about adapting. Olivia had to relearn how to walk properly, how to run, how to climb stairs. She did physical therapy, trained, and worked hard, but each step was a victory. Each movement was a reminder that God is real, that miracles happen. And her life and Nathan's went on. They had children, 2 beautiful, energetic boys whom Olivia chased around the yard, laughing, playing, living. She never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the dark days. But she also never let those days define who she was. One day, years later, Olivia was at the supermarket with her children when she saw a girl in a wheelchair. The girl was alone, standing in the aisle, looking sad. Olivia approached, crouched down in front of her, and said, "Hi, how are you?" The girl looked at her, surprised. "Everything." "How old are you?" 10. Olivia smiled. "I also spent a lot of time in a wheelchair. 14 years. The girl's eyes widened. "Seriously? But you're walking?" "Yes, and do you know why? Because God performed a miracle. But it wasn't just the miracle of making me walk. It was the miracle of making me believe again, of showing me that I have value, that I am loved." Olivia held the girl's hand. "And you are too. It doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter what you feel. You are loved. You have a purpose. And God has a beautiful plan for your life." The girl started to cry, and Olivia hugged her. When she returned home that day and told Nathan what had happened, he smiled and said, "You know why God allowed you to go through all that, right? Why? So that you could help other people believe too. So that your story could become someone's hope." Olivia looked at him, and then she looked at the children playing in the yard. She looked at the house they had built together, at the life they had, and she realized that Nathan was right. Her pain had not been in vain. Her story was not just hers. It was the story of everyone who needed to believe that God does not give up, that miracles happen, that even on the darkest days, He is there, waiting, preparing something beautiful. That night, before going to sleep, Olivia prayed, but it wasn't a prayer of supplication. It was a prayer of gratitude. Thank you, God. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for sending Nathan that day. Thank you for the miracle. Thank you for showing me that even when I thought you had turned your back on me, you were there, preparing the best. She lay down beside Nathan, who was already fast asleep. She took his hand, intertwined their fingers, and closed her eyes. And for the first time in her life, Olivia slept in complete peace, because she knew deep in her heart, that God had never abandoned her. He was just waiting for the right moment, the perfect moment, the moment when everything would fall into place in a way she could never have planned. Because her miracle wasn't just being able to walk again. It was understanding that God answers prayers, sometimes in the way we expect, sometimes in a better way. And in Olivia's case, it was much, much better. She had a family, she had love, she had faith, she had purpose, she had everything she ever wanted and more. And it all began that day. That day she cried in the street asking God why, and God answered by sending someone who would change everything, someone who would teach her to love again, to believe again, to live again. And that person was Nathan, the man who appeared out of nowhere, the man who defended her, the man who saw beauty where others saw flaws, the man who believed in her when she didn't believe in herself, the man God sent at exactly the right time. Because God is never late. He always arrives at the right time, at the perfect time, at the time when we need Him most. And Olivia learned this in the most beautiful way possible, through love, through faith, through miracles, and her story. Her story became living proof that God is real, that He cares, that He transforms pain into joy, darkness into light, despair into hope, and even when all seems lost, He is there, working, preparing, orchestrating the miracle that will change everything. Just like He did with Olivia, just as it does with everyone who chooses to believe, Olivia discovered that the greatest miracle wasn't walking again, it was believing again. It was understanding that, even when we think God isn't listening, He's orchestrating something greater than we can imagine. Sometimes the answer comes in the form of healing. Sometimes it comes in the form of a person. But it always comes, at the right time, in the right way. And when it arrives, it transforms everything. If this story touched your heart, leave a like, comment what you thought, and subscribe to keep hearing stories like this. Because we all need to remember, God never gives up on you. I'll leave a video at the end for you, so enjoy it. I guarantee you'll like it too.